So here we go, a little bit early today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, of course, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll share a little bit of dialogue with those of you able to join us as we look through some news stories. Of course, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk on YouTube, and that's at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University currently, as well as you can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta as we get ready to jump off. Being joined here today by Granny Smith and by Monkey, actually, both in the room down here. Granny Smith on the floor and Monkey in the corner, keeping me company as we get ready to jump off. And I'll say hello to some of the people that are joining us for the live portion. As always, make a few announcements. I see Jeff is with us, as well as WCM, Caps, and Legends. Again, early today because I got way too much to do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do this at all today. So I had to do it earlier, but that's okay. I see Jane has joined us. And I'll remind everyone, and I'll put it up on the screen here really quickly, that I'm hoping to probably by the first week of June move the podcast exclusively back to Coffee Talk, which is at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube, and that's the moniker up there on the screen, because I started sharing on both channels initially as a way to really keep Prepper University alive, because ScrewTube was just killing it. ScrewTube was ruining that channel very badly. But I'd like to get back to the core value of that channel, whereas it talks exclusively about prepping, survival, bushcraft, homesteading, and things like that. So I want to, if you're watching on that channel and you enjoy the podcast, please do also subscribe to Coffee Talk. And that is, again, at Coffee Talk Live, because by hopefully the first week of June, I will be moving that podcast exclusively back to where it originated. And because, again, the Coffee Talk's always been more about discussion and politics and social stuff and things like that. But then Prepper University, the name says it all. So I wanted to get back to that, and I'll just keep reminding people. So hopefully you're subscribed to both channels and you get something out of that. I see Fluke Man has joined us. Yes, Jane, ScrewTube, indeed, because they put the screws to you. I've said it many times. YouTube tries to pretend like they're taking care of people and they're looking out for everyone and they're trying to keep their community safe. But if we're being honest, they're the biggest bullies in here. They're the biggest bullies in here, pushing people around, intimidating people, threatening people. It's just they make the experience miserable. They make it undesirable to even continue to function within YouTube. And Paul has joined us. He says, good evening. Good evening, Paul. As we get ready to jump off into the actual news here. And again, I know most people watch after the fact. Like most people, only a handful of people can make it for the live streams, but the majority of people who see these see it afterwards. But in particular, still, on Prepper University, 3/4 or more of the total views are seen on that channel. But I just want to shift gears back to the way it was originally formatted as we get ready to jump off here into the first news story, which is going to be Newsweek. And of course, this came up yesterday because this is when it happened. And that is Trump and the executive orders concerning Medicaid and Medicare. If it opens, come on, StreamYard. There we go. See, it wasn't that hard. See, Raccoon has joined us. And Legend says, hard to believe I've been following your channel for almost a decade. Started watching Coffee Talk at possibly 22. Wow. Wow. And there are also, and I appreciate that, there's some very, some people who have been watching the channel for a very long time. that they get something out of it, and that means a lot, because otherwise it's not worth it. It's not worth it with as difficult as ScrewTube makes it to get anything accomplished in here anymore. They punish you for basically everything. Oh, that's right, Fluke Man. He says in bribery, I remember you said ScrewTube offered you expensive gadgets if you promoted LGB. That is correct. It was that was a few years back, and that's when I first started getting in trouble. Fluke Man, I've mentioned that before. They had sent me an offer. I was to come to California, to come to, like, I think it was San Francisco, I want to say. I did a video on it a long time ago. I don't remember the title of the video, if it's still up. But they had, you're supposed to come to San Francisco and come to some conference, and you get $5,000 worth of camera equipment and all this other stuff. But you had to put out pro LGB, pro trans, or pro Black Lives Matter type videos. And I was like, well, no thanks. That doesn't fit with my format. Very politely as possible. It doesn't fit with the type of stuff that I do. And ever since then, I've had all sorts of problems. So I think it's reasonable to assume that I just got put on their blacklist because of that. That I've been put on the blacklist. And WCM says he's guessing at least 7 years. Wow. I tell you what, didn't know I was that interesting. But as we jump into the actual news and not just personal stuff here, Newsweek, what Trump's executive order means for Medicare and Medicaid. Well, while everybody said he was going to gut the programs and that all old people were going to end up homeless, I've been listening to all that garbage for months. Doesn't look that way, does it? After President Trump issued an executive order to dramatically lower prescription drug prices in the United States, recipients on Medicare and Medicaid are wondering how the new prices could impact them. I don't know. How do you think? Especially since they don't pay for anything anyways. I don't know why people who don't pay for anything worry about how they're going to pay for things. You ever notice that? Who complains the most? Medicaid, Medicare, SSI, SRS, EBT, welfare, Social Security. These are the people that whine the most, but they don't pay for anything. They don't pay for anything. All right, well, let's get into the article. Nearly 70 million Americans rely on Medicare, while Medicaid services nearly 80 million low-income or disabled recipients. While prescription drug prices under Medicare and Medicaid can vary, Trump's new executive order aims to lower prices for all patients. And more to the point, lowers the expense for the state and federal governments that pay for this stuff for people. Because, again, they are not paying this. They are not paying this. Case in point, my wife's brother, I've mentioned before, a poke turned him into a quadriplegic, and he eventually died. But all of his services, medications, equipments, and everything else, SRS, or SSI, rather. They rarely had to come out of pocket for anything because he was disabled. So, again, who's doing the complaining here? So the order is based on a most favored nation pricing model similar to a policy Trump pushed in his first administration, but ultimately failed following legal challenges. Trump signed the executive order Monday to lower prescription drug prices. Currently, Americans pay significantly more for prescription drugs than consumers in other countries. Do you know why you pay more? They're not going to tell you in the article, I guarantee you. But you pay more in the United States because they offset the balance of their advertising. That's one of the main reasons, believe it or not. They have to offset the balance of what they pay for advertising, which is substantial, since it makes for more than 50% of commercial advertisement right now. And remember that the United States is one of only 2 countries in the world that allows for prescription drugs to be advertised in the media, on the internet, on the television, everywhere. constantly selling us this poison. My favorite is, and I can't remember the name of it, it's supposed to stop eczema, but one of the side effects is hives. And it's like, okay, isn't that almost the same thing? You're substituting one skin rash for another. Armored says blacklist equals political dissidence. I guess so. Raccoon thinks they found the channel in 2016 when they started prepping. Found the hobby channel later. I said, hey, that's the prepper guy. He's a nerd like me. There you go. Cap says, okay, if YouTube cares about their content creators and their users, why do they still allow porn on the platform? And I've been watching your channel for a long time. Thank you. Yeah, they don't really care. It's the same argument as I've made about when I got hit for video allegedly made for children. And their method of handling that is to block the video from being found or from being shared or getting likes or comments or anything. So a kid can't find something that you deem is suitable for a kid to watch, but they can find everything else. They can find every other crass, vulgar, just garbage. And that's okay somehow. That makes sense. And Monkeys joined us. Glad you could make it. Yeah, WCM always shakes their head at the side effects. The side effects are terrifying on a lot of this stuff. It says prices for brand name drugs. Hold on. Okay, prices for brand name drugs in the U.S. are on average 3 times higher, and drug makers often base their business strategies around the U.S. market, where they earn most of their global profits. It's because Americans are hypochondriacs and they think they need every pill that comes down the track instead of, being healthy. I don't want to lose weight. I want to take a pill. Trump called his executive order one of the most consequential executive orders in the country's history and said it would reduce drug prices almost immediately by 30 to 80%. I don't know if that's accurate or not. Under the order, drug makers have a 30-day deadline to meet specific price targets. The government will take further action if the companies do not make significant progress within 6 months. And again, 1, they're taking advantage of us, and 2, they're offsetting their advertising expenses, which includes the manipulations, because they have salesmen that go out and pitch this garbage. The new executive order is likely to face legal pushback, I bet. The pharmaceutical industry has long criticized pricing rules, saying they can dramatically cut into revenue and reduce incentives for new drug development. I don't think we need any more. I think we have too many drugs. Legends wants to know if they ever repaired Notre Dame. I remember the video you did on it years ago. I got in trouble for that video. I know that it was under construction. I don't know if they finished it. Luke Man says he doesn't understand the U.S. healthcare system. If low and middle income earners are automatically covered by the government, why so many people depend on insurance? Or does it only affect people that have money? Yes. Rich people don't have insurance because they don't need it. If something they don't go to the doctor. I don't go to the doctor. The hell I want to go to the doctor for? The doctor doesn't know a damn thing. They don't know anything about human biology. I promise you. They don't even know anything about the medications. If you come to them, they don't know what's wrong with you. They don't know. And they type something up to find pills to shove at you. Okay? So rich people, they don't need it. Poor people don't need it because they get it for free. Even when I was a kid, we didn't pay for anything. Remember, I grew up in a housing project. My mother was on welfare. She didn't pay for doctor visits. She didn't pay for dental. For her or for me. It was covered by the welfare department. Okay? If you're middle class, then you need insurance because you're not getting it for free and you can't afford it probably. If you ran into a problem, you'd need the insurance to back you up. So it's the middle class that gets hit with that for real, not the poorest people. I get tired of hearing that. Monkey suggests that they believe Notre Dame Church is repaired now. It could be. It's been long enough. It's been long enough. It says Michael Ryan, a finance expert. Yeah, an expert for who? And the founder of MichaelRyanMoney.com said Medicare recipients could see savings for specialty drugs under the order, but due to legal hurdles, it's unlikely to actually lower drug costs. For Medicare, and potential savings would mainly affect specialty drugs. Think cancer treatments and other infusions. It's not addressing everyday prescriptions most seniors pick up at the pharmacy. And for Medicaid recipients, the details are even vaguer. Bottom line, this is more political promise than practical policy at this point. If you're on Medicare or Medicaid and struggling with drug costs, I wouldn't count on relief coming from this particular order. Okay. And again, I have an issue with people taking that many prescriptions, especially or even elderly people. Some of you may remember the video I did on my mother-in-law when she went to the nursing home after she had her stroke. And stroke, of course, is the side effect of many of the medications that she was taking. And it was something like, if I remember correctly, it was 32 or 34 different prescription drugs or something. How do you even keep track of that? How do you even keep track of that on a day-to-day basis? It doesn't make any sense. WCM says I'm middle class enough to get screwed all the way around. Really dirt poor, poorer than poor people. Yeah, because poor people may not have a lot of trinkets, or they shouldn't. I don't know how they manage to, because they have more expensive sneakers than me, and all this fancy jewelry. I don't even wear jewelry. It's incredible. Fluke Man says it's an American cancer patient guy said he can't get transport to another hospital for a lung transplant because his insurance said they won't cover for his treatment. Yes, some insurers only cover certain locations. So it'll cost more if you go there. They'll only cover it to a point or not at all. You have to fall within, I forget the term. You have to fall within their section of who's authorized for medical use. So yeah, I mean, he did this. I don't know how much it'll help. You'd see the prices go down quite a bit if they'd stop advertising, which I would love to see them stop advertising all that medication. I'm sick of seeing it. Sick of seeing it, sick of hearing about it, sick of seeing constant, really, it's either auto insurance telling me that I could bundle my home and auto like it's some kind of miracle that they just came up with yesterday. Like nobody's ever done that. Or it's for medication. Constant advertisement. And sometimes not in English. Half the commercials that we see are in Spanish. I thought the TV was supposed to be smart. At least it's not in Hindu anymore. We used to get them in Hindu. And I'm like, why are we seeing this? Did I ever use a Hindu word in this house that my phone secretly listened to? Because it gets scary with how the phones spy on you with all of that stuff. It really does. Like my wife looks at wallpaper on her computer at work, and then I'm getting ads for it on my phone. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But I don't trust it. I would like to see, I know that's something that RFK Jr. was pushing for. It remains to be seen if he can pull it off, to stop advertising medication. Again, only 2 countries on earth advertise medication to the public openly, and that is, of course, prescription medication, and that is the United States and New Zealand, if I remember correctly. United States and New Zealand. Armored wants to know, now that English is the official language, has anyone seen changes in daily life? I don't know, because I don't I'm not out and about like that to see those changes, or basically a lot of those changes involved taking down websites in multiple languages or giving out paperwork at the welfare office printed in 13 different languages. Stuff like that is what the government walked back. Caps says because America is the only country that allows for advertising of medication and medicines that not everyone needs, but they still act like you need it. I have seen this happen with my aunt. Yeah. People think, yeah, they think they need it, or they just want it. Or they just want it. Like hair treatment. People, they don't want to be bald. So they get pills to make their hair grow. You know, one of the side effects of those pills is erectile dysfunction. I think I'd rather just lose my hair. Oh, but they got a pill for that too, which also has side effects, which I couldn't even tell you what they might be, but I'm sure it has a ton of creepy side effects. But moving on to the subject of the thumbnail. The thumbnail here, this is a CNN article, and this is the media trying to make you hate Trump again. Orange man bad media, because they understand this and they're acting like they don't, because they're counting on the fact that their readers are not going to research any of this. So CNN, it's a bribe. MAGA media stars bash Trump's reported Quatar plane gift. Okay, I'm sure you've heard about this. And again, that was the nature of the thumbnail today, is that Quatar offered the United States a plane. And I'm going to get into this. Indefensible, it's a bribe, it's such a stain on the administration, which is what some of President Donald Trump's staunchest supporters, among the loudest critics of his plan to accept a jet from Qatar for use as Air Force One. In a rare break from the cheerleading that typifies MAGA media outlets, some commentators are using the platforms to urge Trump to change his mind about the highly unusual gift. Others are encouraging Trump voters to consider how they'd react if a Democratic president hatched the same plan. It's not a plan, and I'm going to explain this in full detail in a minute. Quote, I think if we switched the names to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, we'd all be freaking out on the right, according to the Daily Wire co-founder Ben Shapiro. Well, Ben Shapiro's a shill anyway. Shapiro also linked the potential Quatar deal with other reports of influence peddling, like Trump's cryptocurrency sweepstakes. The administration's policy is too important for this sort of activity, according to Shapiro. President Trump promised to drain the swamp. This is not, in fact, draining the swamp. And Shapiro, of all people, ought to understand what's going on here. And like I said, I'm going to explain it in a minute. Some Trump-aligned commentators and social media stars are echoing the president's talking points about the luxury jet, including his insistence that only stupid people would turn down such a gift. Some MAGA media outlets are deflecting the criticism by sowing doubt about the media's coverage of the controversy. However, a striking number of Trump boosters sound almost as outraged as the Democratic lawmakers who say accepting the plane would be profoundly unethical and possibly illegal. All right, now I'm going to explain it. WCM says Orange Man bad. Definitely a selection indeed. And Lukeman says, unfortunately, medication ads are normalized like junk food, talking about the previous subject. Insurance, clothes, and etc. They know their ads will draw attention and overcharge people. Correct. Now, here's the deal with accepting the Quatar plane. First of all, Trump isn't accepting it for himself. It's not like he's getting a plane. This is an offer made from Quatar, from the Shah. It's the Shah, right? To the United States as a gift to replace Air Force One, because Air Force One is in disrepair. And I believe it's Boeing, right, has dropped the ball with presenting a replacement. They've been waiting quite a long time for a replacement and it has not come. And Quatar says, we will give you one. Okay. Now, all these people who are criticizing this in the media, Shapiro, Democrats, everyone, knows that is a Middle Eastern custom. Okay, it's an expensive one here, And there's a reason it's such an expensive gift, and I'm going to get into that. It is a custom in the Middle East to present a gift. All diplomats in the United States and in the West, as a matter of fact, are instructed, if they offer you something, accept it, because it's an insult if you don't in their culture. If they offer you something, you accept it. And they take these expensive gifts, and when they return to the United States, U.S. ambassadors, senators, vice presidents, whoever, they turn it in. They turn it in to the White House archives. They don't keep it, but they shouldn't refuse it because it's an insult and it causes other problems. Quatar offered a very expensive gift because in their mind, they're expressing a desire for a trade deal, which has already happened right after this. It came down the pipe this morning that we've reached a huge deal with Quatar. Okay? And I'm going to read that story in a minute. So in their mind, they're like, this gift will show we're serious. We give you this gift to show we're serious. Trump accepts the gift because it's protocol. Plus, like he pointed out, it'd be stupid not to take it. It's worth $400 million. $400 million the U.S. does not have to pay. It's been suggested it might be full of bugs. It's not that hard to sweep that thing for any type of spying devices. It's not that complicated. Never mind the fact that it's not usable until it's been retrofitted. And as I pointed out, the original or the old Air Force One needs to be replaced. So this thing will be swept, armored, and armed to be made usable by the executive branch of the White House. It's not like Trump's going to keep it. It's not how he's going to keep it. And people don't want to hear that. And I don't care. I understand Middle Eastern protocol. And you can easily look it up. You can turn off the porn that you use your computer for, and the video games and the celebrity gossip, and actually research this stuff instead of just getting mad. You don't want to piss these partners off before you get started, and then you can't close a deal. So it is a bribe? No. Lukeman says, was it New Jersey had politicians tried to illegally enter immigrant detention center? Yes, we read that yesterday. Clash with ICE agents. The woman in red body slammed one of the agents and got themselves arrested. I don't know about anybody having a physical altercation, but I know that the mayor and I believe 3 representatives got arrested for trespassing. We talked about, yeah, we read that yesterday. They went there knowing they wouldn't get access to virtue signal, which I've been seeing Democrat Party representatives of all sorts doing that for a while now, at least a lot this year. Maxine Waters has done it a couple of times. We read the story where she went to the Department of Education building without an appointment and was told that she couldn't come in, and acted like Trump was deliberately keeping her from accessing a public building. And it's like, no, sweetheart, that's not how it works. She knows that. The media knows that. But again, they're counting on the fact that the average person doesn't know that. And they're abusing that ignorance. I've said it a million times. Most people are not that smart, and they know this. But again, that doesn't mean you have to treat people like they're stupid or take advantage of it. Monkey says, guess this is what happens when the educational system doesn't teach beyond the Western philosophy and culture. Correct. Remember, we have in the West, we're supposed to be anyways taught rational logical thought process, which comes from Greece, really. It goes back as far as Greece. In the Middle East and in Asia, it's an analogical thought process rooted in a shame and honor concept. Not shame as in you feel ashamed, but shame as in you embarrassed me and I'm going to get you for it. And that's how you reclaim your honor. That's where shame and honor comes from. That's how you ended up with kamikaze pilots from Japan in World War II. Because it doesn't make sense to somebody in a rational, logical thought mentality. Why would you crash your plane and kill yourself? Because it was more important for them to embarrass the enemy than it was to live. And you have to really understand those thought processes when you're dealing with people from that part of the world. And these politicians understand this. They're not stupid. They just act like they are. They know how it works over there. There's people over there been fighting about the same crap for 3,000 years. What are you going to tell them? WCM says porn will bring you down. Definitely turn it off. I agree. I don't think it's healthy at all. I don't care what they tell you. Pornography is not healthy for you. It's not normal or natural. It's not normal or natural. The more you look at it, the less satisfied you are. And it becomes an addiction and turns into a huge problem, and it will interfere with other relationships, real relationships. Cap says it's like saying there's an app for that, but there's a pill for that, but you get to deal with all the side effects and all of the horrible things that come with it, correct? Talking about medications there, Caps. So, yeah, the media wants to act like he's personally getting some jet and that he should have refused it, but ignoring Middle Eastern protocol, analogical thought culture, and U.S. protocol, and indeed Western governments' protocols about accepting gifts from the Middle East in the first place. As I've pointed out, you hear this a lot from I've seen a lot of this about U.S. ambassadors and other statesmen, congressmen that go overseas and visit with so-and-so, and they give them some crazy expensive gift, jewel-encrusted dagger or something stupid, and they accept it graciously, return to the U.S., and turn it in. They don't keep it because they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to keep it because it would be considered a bribe. And in this case, again, it's going to, this plane, if it is used, will be turned into the new Air Force One. It's not like Trump is personally getting this plane and he's going to keep it and fly around in it for the rest of his life and leave it to his children in his will. That's not happening. Biden would have taken it too. And if he did take it, as much as I dislike Biden, I'd have to agree with the reasonings behind it, because he would have been advised, yes, Mr. President, probably not a good idea to refuse it, especially if you're trying to cement a trade deal with these people, which happened this morning. Financial Express article, U.S. President Donald Trump and Saudi Crown Prince sign a $600 billion economic and defense partnership. And there it is. Officials say the investments are designed to boost American energy security, revitalize manufacturing, and enhance innovation across key industries. This is why you tell the guy, no, I don't want your damn plane. But again, you can't get people to understand this. They don't want to understand it, a lot of them. Anyways, they don't want to understand it. Donald Trump and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman signed an economic partnership agreement Tuesday in Riyadh. I don't know if I pronounced that right. The agreement, announced during Trump's high-stakes visit to Saudi, the deal encompasses sectors ranging from energy and mining to defense infrastructure and technology. According to a White House fact sheet, the agreement includes a commitment from Saudi Arabia to invest a staggering $600 billion in the United States. Officials say the investments are designed to boost American energy security, revitalize manufacturing, and enhance innovation across key industries. The agreement marks a new golden era of U.S.-Saudi relations. These transformative deals not only drive innovation and job creation in the United States, but also reinforce our shared security and prosperity. Armin says America is the land of pills. I agree. You already know I'm not a fan of medication at all. I don't like it. I don't trust it. I think it's poisoning us. I think that I've seen a sharp increase in sickly, weak kids, children across the board from when I was a kid. It seems like everybody's autistic now and everybody's got a food allergy. I read somewhere, I don't know if I'm crossing my wires, but I thought I read somewhere 1 in 5 children have a food allergy now. That doesn't make any sense. You know where you don't see that? In countries that don't require you to take a jab. I mean, seriously, who's allergic to food? Only in America. And no one thinks something's wrong with that? All these sick, weak children, less intelligent, autistic, ADHD, things you didn't used to see. If you did, it was rare. And it's not like there wasn't awareness. Please don't anybody get on me. Oh, it's because you weren't aware. Yeah, okay. Sure. That must be it. No awareness, or it wasn't there. Which is it? Most likely, it wasn't there. Wasn't there, or at least not severely. Not like it is now. And the only thing that could cause that is either a change in food or medicine. And people eat more garbage, drink more garbage, and take more pills and more shots than ever before. And you're seeing these people hurt. I think it's interesting, just in context, risking getting in trouble with ScrewTube. The 3 countries that refused a mandate during COVID, all 3 of those presidents were assassinated. And those countries did not have an outbreak. Look it up. Look it up. You wonder why people don't trust George Soros or any of his ilk. But there's your $600 billion trade deal. Trump knows what he's doing. He can do business. He may not be the nicest guy. And can you fully trust him? Probably not. But so far, he's done everything he said he was going to do. And that's the important bit. So far, he's done everything he said he was going to do, whether people like it or not. He may not have done it as fast as he initially suggested. Because he did say day one on a few things, and that didn't happen. But it did happen. I'm just waiting for the people that sit there, activists, politicians, whoever, and they're like, oh, that's because Biden set it up for him. Yeah. Yeah. Biden did it. Luke Man says, because you seem paranoid doesn't mean you are. Doesn't mean you are. Not at all. Not at all. Now we're going to talk about Jasmine Crockett again, because she has really put her foot in her mouth all the way up to the hip at this point with her recent interviews, and it keeps getting worse. It keeps getting worse. Keeps getting worse with the stupid things that she says that no one else could say. This is going to be a Tampa Free Press article coming up here any second now. It says Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett says why she thinks Kamala Harris struggled with black men in 2024. Well, maybe because she's not really black, but her explanation I think is really interesting. She keeps saying things that are like incredibly racist. Says Democratic Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett said during a Monday podcast that the former Vice President Kamala Harris' background as a prosecutor hurt her standing with black men during the 2024 campaign. Harris received 77% of the black male vote in 2024 compared to 82% for Hillary Clinton in 2016 and 79% for Joe Biden in 2020. That's because, unfortunately, black people historically will vote the Democratic ticket up and down the board. Rather than picking a legitimate candidate, they will vote either based on color or based on party exclusively, rather than on the individual's merits, historically speaking. And that's very unfortunate. Crockett said on the Chuck Toddcast, she believed misogyny influenced male voters of all races, but particularly said she thought her career as a prosecutor alienated black male voters. Quote, the very first polling brief that we had with a pollster that I trust a lot, he briefed the Black Caucus, and he said that one of the issues that he was running into with black and brown communities was that she had been a prosecutor. There was definitely some resume stuff. She said resume stuff, I don't know why, that disallowed her from being able to build that type of rapport of trust within these marginalized communities that historically have been targeted. So basically what she said, and this is extremely insulting actually when you break it down, what she's suggesting is that most black males, because they're criminals, I guess, don't like the idea of a prosecutor being president. Never mind the fact that she didn't really do her job. We read all the articles when Kamala Harris was running from people that she used to work with that said that basically she didn't do her job. She took credit for other people's work, but she didn't really ever do anything. She would just show up for the photo ops. We read a few articles like that from former co-workers while she was running for vice president, or for president rather, after Biden dipped out. So she's saying because this person was an attorney general or a prosecutor in California, black men were intimidated. Black men are intimidated. So you're saying that 77% of them voting isn't enough. Isn't enough. Which that's still a very high percentage. 77%. You know what's interesting is I had seen this on Jason Whitlock, actually. He has a big YouTube channel here, where he suggested in interviews that a lot of black males vote that way, or vote for Harris, vote for Biden, whatever, because black females influence them to do so. And now you have Crockett basically stereotyping her own, what she perceives to be ethnic group, by saying, yeah, they don't want to vote for her because bad experiences. Why? Because 100% of black men have gone to jail? That's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. I ain't voting for no prosecutor because I've been to jail. Are they all in jail? Are you in jail? What a ridiculous thing to say. What a ridiculous thing to say. Armand wants to know how Texas has all these loonies for representatives. I don't know. But some of the stuff that she has said has been so crazy. Some of the stuff that she has said. And insulting and racially biased. And gets away with it because of the double standards. What an insulting thing. And they're still going to vote for her, I bet. They're still going to vote for her. But that's still a huge demographic. 79% voted for Joe Biden and 77% voted for Kamala. That's negligible. That's a 2%. That's a difference of 2 points. That's very negligible, and you're complaining. Did it ever occur to you that maybe they just didn't like Kamala? That's what Jane says here. I agree. Jasmine is silly and insulting. Maybe black men did not like Kamala Harris. Yeah, exactly. Nobody wanted her. No one asked for her. And she was installed. Again, she was installed. She did not, she completely bypassed the proper voting process to become eligible to even run for president in the first place. And secondly, they transferred Joe Biden's donations for his campaign fund to her directly, bypassing proper channels also. Because the law says, we read this way back, that money was supposed to be refunded and then re-donated, not just transferred. Jane wants to know if she'll run again. My concept is that she's going to take a jab at California. I don't think she's going to run for president. I think Tim Walz is, but we'll see. I mean, that's just pure speculation. As if California isn't already ruined. That's all they need. That's all they need. Talking about this again, because I had read some of this subject a few weeks ago. This is global news. Canada, U.S. travel drops for fourth straight month, according to new data. Without even getting into the article, okay? That basically most of the trips that take place are at Niagara Falls. And they're suggesting that for 4 months in a row, tourism has fallen off. And they're complaining about it. Why is that happening? We've read the articles. The reason it's happening is because all the hotels and motels in Niagara Falls are loaded with migrants. So why would you book a vacation to Niagara Falls if you can't get in, if you've got nowhere to stay? Canada has shot itself in the foot with their migrant crisis. And the mayor down in Niagara openly complained about it, but I haven't heard from him since the new prime minister was installed. But prior to that, he was very vocal about it. Hey, we can't, all the hotels and motels are loaded with migrants. Nobody's coming for the tourism. The city's dying. And here they are again complaining, oh, the tourism has fallen off for 4 straight months. I bet it has. And then even if you could find a room in Niagara, would you want to go there? And it looks like downtown Nairobi. Ankle deep in garbage on the streets, with people milling around in blankets, prostitutes, and selling drugs, because that's what's going on. Fluke Man wants to know how they know a majority of black voted for Biden and Harris. If they can commit voter fraud, they can fake that too. That's possible. Because in theory, they should know who exactly you are if you vote. But yeah, in theory, if they can fake it, they can lie about that too. You're correct. Armin says most Americans don't have many reasons to visit Canuckistan. Is that what they're calling it now? Canuckistan? Kind of like Londonistan. Speaking of which, And Puck sent me this article, actually, if I can get it to open. And it's a Reclaim article talking about the UK, Great Britain. It says, in Britain, the thought crime is real. It says a pensioner faced a raid for not for plotting mayhem, but for posting a sarcastic tweet fewer than 30 people saw. Well, unfortunately, one of those people was Scotland Yard. It says it takes a very special kind of madness to send 6 baton-wielding, pepper spray-toting police officers to arrest a 71-year-old man in his slippers. But here we are. Welcome to Britain 2025, where tweeting the wrong opinion is treated with the same urgency as a hostage situation in Croydon. Julian Folks, once a proud servant of law and order, now finds himself on the receiving end of what can only be described as a full-scale Kafkaesque raid. His crime, not drug dealing, not fraud, not even refusing to pay the TV license. No, Julian questioned a pro-Palestinian demonstrator on X because apparently free speech is now a limited time offer. The story began in Gillingham when Kent police decided to deploy what must have been half their annual budget to storm the Folks' residence. 6 officers with batons barged into the home of a pensioner who spent a decade in service of the very same force, now being treated like the Yuma bomber. And what high-level contraband did they uncover in this den of danger? Books, literature, and not just any literature, very Brexity things, according to body cam footage obtained by the Telegraph. One can only imagine the horror. Perhaps Nigel Farage's biography lying next to a battered copy of The Spectator, it's practically a manifesto. Also, a shopping lift penned by Julian's wife, who is a hairdresser, featured ominous items such as bleach, aluminum foil, and gloves. For those keeping score at home, that also is the standard toolkit of anyone doing household chores or dyeing hair. But to Kent's finest, it must have looked like the recipe for domestic terrorism. It says, let's not kid ourselves. This isn't just a Kent problem. This is a snapshot of a country in full bureaucratic free fall. We've reached a point where police officers, rather than chasing burglars or catching knife-wielding lunatics, are now busy raiding the homes of retirees over innocuous social media posts. And that's what's going on in Great Britain. And it's ramping up quite a bit. It's ramping up quite a bit in the UK, even though the media is trying to deny it. The media is trying to deny that it is a problem. And I'm sure you've heard of the comparing and contrasting that has gone on between Great Britain and Russia. Okay? Great Britain and Russia. The UK has a population of about 68.5 million people currently on the books, right? Russia has a population of 141 million. Russia, within the same time period, and you may have seen this, arrested 411 people for social media posts. But at the same time, in the UK, almost 3,200 people were arrested for the same types of crimes. And this has been fact-checked, and they fact-checked it as false, okay? By, of course, a British media outlet. Fact-checked this as false because they suggested that in Russia, those 411 people were arrested specifically for social media crimes, but the almost 3,200 people that were arrested at the exact same time, in the same time frame in Great Britain, only some of them were social media crimes, where the others were otherwise internet associated. And by otherwise internet associated, they meant responding to social media or sending an email. And that specifically only direct social media posts only counted for just under 1,700 arrests, which you've got a country that has 40% of the population of Russia, but you're still admitting had 4 times as many arrests as Russia for specifically social media arrests, and the other 1,500 or so arrests were sort of internet related. But that's your fact check to dispel the rumor. And that actually sounds worse when you break it up. It sounds worse than it did before the fact check. In their efforts to soften the blow, they made it sound worse. Oh no, it wasn't 9 times as many arrests or 8 times as many arrests. It was only 4 times as many. See, that's not true. Those other arrests were for other internet-related hate crimes. I don't know why anybody thinks they're still free in the UK. It's about as much of a petty dictatorship at this point as Russia would be. You're just hating on Russia because they're at war. Whether you want to admit it or not, they changed a lot after the Berlin Wall fell. Don't like Putin? Fine. Lukeman says, if I'm not mistaken, he worked as a volunteer policeman unpaid for 10 years. Imagine working for nothing for a decade and getting treated like this by the same people that admitted they're wrong. No kidding. Thought police. Thought police. Orwell warned you. Ministry of Truth, here we go. Sounds like something that Great Britain would do. This is what we're reduced to. This is where we are now. This is where we are now in the UK, unfortunately. I feel bad for them. And there's a lot of people over there that are brainwashed into thinking it's fantastic. And they're all for it. They're all for it right up until it happens to them, I'm sure. Right up until it happens to them. And then what are they going to say? I'm going to remind everybody, again, if you are, if you're watching on Prepper University, I'll take a moment here to do this. Please also subscribe to Coffee Talk. And that's the moniker for it. It's at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube. Because by the first week of June, I want to switch back over to having the podcast only on Coffee Talk instead of sharing it on both channels, so that I can devote more time to specifically prepper and homesteading and bushcraft kind of stuff on the Prepper channel again. Paul says, one of the reasons I got out. I don't blame you. So on the way out here, we'll take a look at the debt clock really quickly. National debt clock to see Doge's projection, which is currently at $426 billion in savings, potential savings. $426 billion in potential savings. Looks like it'll hit 427 in the next couple of hours. So there we go. So, hey, what can I say? Thanks for joining us today. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube on Coffee Talk and currently on Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. Fluke Man wants to know if I'd consider doing a prepper version podcast. I can think about it if I could work out the time. I have enough time of trouble finagling this hour in as it is. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will catch you again tomorrow.